Well, it's certainly been a different Workers' Day this year. The majority of South Africa's workforce has been at home for more than a month. As the process of relaxing stringent lockdown rules begins, some sectors of the economy are starting to open, as you've just seen in that report. However, many companies have buckled under the lockdown and will not be reopening. A significant number of workers have already lost their livelihoods. More jobs are on the line. Well, we're joined on the line by Trade Union Fedusa's General Secretary, Rifta Ajam. Rifta, thank you very much for joining us on this Workers' Day. Such a different energy today because work has not really happened. We've all been locked down and locked away. Our economy is under terrible strain. What is your main message on this Workers' Day for your members? Some 500,000, I understand.
Yes, indeed. Good evening to you, Sally, and good evening to your listeners. It is indeed a historic moment, globally, where we remained locked down on this most important event on the calendar for workers, International Workers' Day. And yes, our economy is going to still be facing a very rough and a tough ride as we anticipate that millions will be expected to be without jobs as we move closer and closer towards what we are hoping would be greater easing up of the economy. But we equally ask the South African population to take care, to be cautious, to be responsible. We've seen the influx of people coming out today in their droves, either to exercise or whatever it was that they were required to do. But equally so, we are asking them that as they enjoy this little bits of freedom during the confined times, that they should be responsible. There have just been too many reports today of people going out without their protective masks. It is simply disheartening at the stage where we feel that we may just be reversing the gains that we have made with the lockdown.
Yes, and you have healthcare workers among your members, and obviously they're the ones most at risk because they have to work closely with people who have the virus. So I would imagine your first concern is for them.
Sally, you are absolutely right. We cannot overemphasize the importance of our human capital, first and foremostly, during this time. And the irony of the situation is that as much as our public sector unions and those healthcare workers that are at the front line of fighting this pandemic are the ones who have been dealt more of a serious blow at the end of the day. And we will continuously amplify the message for personal protective equipment to be prioritized. And, within this particular context, Fedusa has launched our own Isibonelelo Fund, currently to the tune of just over 250,000. Unfortunately, we have not seen the levels of commitment in our public institutions, in particular, where our members require to be protected. The key cases that have been widely broadcast has been at St. Augustine's Hospital and many others around the country, where most sadly so our members have equally contracted COVID-19.
You also have members in the aviation industry, and I know that you don't have a lot of people at SAA. You were saying to me off air that there are some pilots, but it's very interesting what we've seen happen with this press release coming out from the Department of Public Enterprise. They're talking about a bold new way for this airline, that they've reached an agreement with the unions, with the workers of SAA to find a new way forward. Now, all along, the unions have been saying, we've got a great idea. Let us work with you. It seems that there's some sort of agreement that a strategic partner can be brought on board. Do you think that in this time where we're facing so many job losses, that the bosses and the workers are starting to actually not polarize, but say we have to find a way to meet in the middle and find a solution? Because this press release is not shying away from the reality that there may still be some job losses, but some job losses is better than no airline at all.
Sally, you know, it's very sad that we're going to be losing our national carrier, even if a strategic partner is brought on board, or you're finding that there's going to be a name change of sort. And yes, the South African Airline Pilots Association is aligned to Fiducia and some of the other cabin crew. But at the end of the day, as has been echoed by many fronts, an extraordinary new social compact has to be born out of this crisis. We have already been left on a back foot, and workers and employers are going to have to find themselves in terms of managing this pandemic and how we go back in terms of the lockdown regulations. The airlines and the transport industry will be severely affected, because if you take a look at domestic as well as international travel, they are only included as part of the lower levels of the lockdown as the regulations start to become more relaxed in their approach. But equally so, we place specific emphasis on the fact that renewed partnerships have to be born, but ultimately we cannot shy away from the reality that the airline is in the current crisis that it is as a result of the vicious forms of continued corruption that has marred the airline. As Fiducia, we have continually called for the board to be removed, because simply those directors that have been serving South African Airways have not acted in their best interest, and as such we have called for them to be declared delinquent. So unfortunately we cannot move away from that directive, but at the same time we have to find a common solution in order to save the jobs in all our economic industries.
Yes, and thank you so much for your views. You are so right that it is a time for a new way forward. Thank you very much. That was Rifta Ajam. She's the Fiducia General Secretary, speaking to us on this Workers' Day.